Hi, Bridgette Griffiths here from Your Address Real Estate, and continuing on with our series, I've got Guy Gibbons, CEO of Bennett Carroll Solicitors with me. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Today, Guy, I'd really like to talk about special conditions on a contract, and as a buyer, why would I need them and what would they look like?
Mostly buyers don't need them. So the standard contract for the purchase and sale of property in Queensland has a whole heap of variables in the first 3 pages. So things like buyer, seller, the solicitors for buyer, seller, the settlement date, the dates for building, pest and finance, the amount of deposit, when it's paid, all the things you would expect are already in there.
Yep.
So you don't need to handwrite conditions for those, but there are times when you're doing something a little bit out of the ordinary. The most common one is, yes, I'm agreeing to buy this property, but I have to sell my other one first. So subject to previous sale. And in Queensland, most agents have got a standard contract that standard special condition they receive from a solicitor, and they can put that into the contract for you, and that's perfectly acceptable in Queensland.
Yeah.
If you as a buyer look at that condition and go, oh, I'm just not really sure about that, it's the sort of thing that you can say to the agent, look, can you scan that, email it to my solicitor, I'll get them to just give me some quick advice before I sign it. The whole thing can be collapsed into a matter of a few minutes. There are other conditions that sometimes get a little bit curly and get a little bit far out.
Sure.
If you're really interested in buying a property, but some other thing has to happen first.
So an inheritance or something like that, maybe?
Or perhaps it's a deceased estate,
sure,
and the property hasn't been transferred out of the name of the deceased person into the executor's name yet.
Yeah.
That's fairly common. You'll just put a special condition in that says
sure,
that the contract's subject to getting that done, and that the sellers will do that quickly.
Okay.
And notify you when it's done. A transmission with the titles office of that type is 5 odd working days, so it's not particularly difficult or onerous, but if it hasn't been done, then as a buyer you'd want to make sure that
that is
done.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. There
are times when you'll have a special condition in, we've talked before in this series about pool safety certificates.
Yep.
It might be that all this has happened really quickly and the seller doesn't have a certificate, but is saying, well, I'll get one.
Sure.
So you'll put a condition that says within 3 or 4 working days, the seller will produce a certificate, and if not, then the buyer has certain rights. So there are times when the standard form contract doesn't quite cover all of those things. It's not a sign that your contract is somehow more dangerous or more likely to fall over, or that there's something wrong with the property. It's just a matter of matching the property to the buyer's needs and making sure that the seller understands what has to be done.
And I suppose it's a safeguard at the end of the day, isn't it, for anyone?
Absolutely. It's a big deal for most people buying or selling a property. It's one of the biggest transactions they'll do in their lives, and people tend to treat it as it's just filling in forms, right?
Sure.
So it's not. It's got to be right. And you should, as a buyer and as a seller, be making sure that you actually understand the consequences of what you're doing. It sounds obvious, but people rush into that, and often they'll ring us and say, oh, well, I can just do this, can't I? And we have to say, well, no, you can't. That is not in the contract. Oh, surely that's in there. No, it isn't. So we try to encourage people. I know it's a longer contract than it used to be. When I started doing this, the contract was one A3 page folded in half. Now it's about 15 odd pages, but it's easy to read. Sit down with a cup of coffee, read it. It's reasonably easy to understand.
Sure.
And what it will do is it will explain to you what you've got to do and what you can and can't do. And if you've got a feeling for what the playing ground is, you're going to be able to make it to the try line fairly quickly.
Yeah, great analogy. Thanks so much, Guy, and thanks again. We'll see you next time.